repairs histories of inequitable access by centering on humanity, care, and the recognition of voices that have had direct impact with organizations and artists. Our first funding strategy was to invest $2 million into BIPOC-funded and led organizations who needed urgent support in the face of the pandemic and other compounding crises. Most awardees used these critical funds for salaries, equipment, rent, and some were able to invest in new opportunities that help build pathways to greater possibilities. In early 2023, we celebrated our first round of the Artist Award Initiative by investing over $500,000 in 25 artists, and the second round of awardees will be announced early in 2025. Almost 1 year ago, we announced the multi-year investment in Houston Cultural Treasures, which were awarded to 11 organizations who have been under-recognized community anchors, the bedrock of Houston's diverse cultural landscape for generations. A total of $5 million in direct funding and technical support will be distributed across these organizations, in addition to inclusion in a 2-year learning cohort that will provide opportunities for experimentation, making connections, and building the capacity of the organizations to sustain themselves. We have been recognized by other evaluators for our innovative approach to community-centered evaluation that involves community storytellers as the primary sense makers and evaluators. BANF is committed to supporting the success of our BIPOC students, and we're launching a pilot initiative in the next couple of months. BANF has already sparked changes in the ecosystem and continue to learn about the impacts of our works. Please join me in welcoming that six-star to the stage to share about our next strategy, the Cultural Treasure Accelerator.
You're so very serious. We are excited to be here today in order to announce our next resource initiative. The Cultural Treasure Accelerator Initiative was developed to support organizations and projects that are cultural treasures in their own communities. I'd like to thank our operational partners, Fresh Arts, Houston Arts Alliance, Indo-American Arts Alliance, and the community reviewers who helped design the initiative, its goals, criteria, and application process. This initiative is part of a strategy in order to grow and invest in small and mid-sized organizations in our ecosystem. It is a strategy to also invest in some of the younger organizations, other organizations who are moving from a space of fiscal sponsorship into a space of their own organization, and a space of their own independent organizations, as well as organizations who are entering a different phase of growth and creative risk. All of these organizations have a history of giving authentic voice to BIPOC communities through creative presentations or arts education programming that contributes to BIPOC student success. The Cultural Treasure Accelerator's resources include a $20,000 general operating award, a 12-month peer network experience, and $5,000 in creative risk investment, as well as learning and evaluation support. We had an amazing group of applications. The initial plan was to fund about 12 organizations. Due to the strength of the applications and their focus areas, we were able to engage our steering committee and our funders in order to expand that initial pool of 12 to support 16 organizations. So I'd like to turn this over to members of our Accountability and Advisory Council in order to have the celebration part of this. So I will please welcome 2023 Artist Awardee Lupe Mendez and Dr. Michelle Tovar, Director of Education at Buffalo Soldiers National Museum.
Buenos dias, good morning. Hope everybody's feeling really great. A round of applause for all the awardees already. so our job this morning is to celebrate you, and so we also get to read the notes that are in this binder to do that part. It is our joy to announce the 16 organizations BANF is recognizing as the Cultural Treasure Accelerator awardees. To celebrate each organization, we ask that the organization's leadership team and their friends to stand up to be recognized after we announce your organization. We will then read a short description informed by your mission and your vision. And we'll do so in alphabetical order. And there'll be more stuff on the screen too, so you can ooh and ah as we go through this. Michelle and I will take turns calling out each of the organizations. This is a real treat. I got to sit there last year representing Metro Palala, and so it's nice to switch it up. So we begin.
Art in the Heart. Congratulations. We are excited to celebrate Art in the Heart, whose mission is to uplift the community through the transformative power of art. Located in the heart of Jansen community, it serves as a hub for artistic exploration and cultural celebration.
Good round of applause. Next, Black Arts Movement BAM, Urban Souls. Congratulations to Harrison Guy, Walter J. Hull II, and the BAM team. Urban Souls Dance Company's founder and artistic director Harrison Guy and executive director Walter J. Hull II will build on their history to expand the vision of Urban Souls and develop Black Arts Movement BAM, envisioned as a cultural catalyst and a sanctuary for Black artists.
Dance Africana. Please join us in celebrating. Congratulations. Dance Africana believes that dance connects us to our ancestors and therefore to ourselves and to each other. They connect and celebrate Africa and the African diaspora through dance.
Just checking. Diaz Music Institute. Please join us in celebrating Diaz Music Institute founder, Jose Antonio Diaz, and Executive Director Elizabeth Diaz. Diaz Music Institute has created programs to motivate, inspire, and develop cultural awareness and social relevancy. Diaz Music Institute, DMI, is committed to the education, preservation, and performance of Latinx music.
The Filipino Young Professionals of Houston. Representatives of FYP are Sarah Bronson. It is a hub through which the Filipino community uplifts one another, through which they share their vibrant Filipino culture throughout the region.
We're just gonna knock into each other all the time. Shout out to my hometown. The Galveston Heritage Chorale. Congratulations. It's good to see you home here. Congratulations to June Bullard and the Galveston Heritage Chorale community. Strives to involve people of all races, creeds, nationalities, and ages in a purpose of performing music that will unite, edify, and educate all people as they preserve and promote the choral renditions of African American spirituals.
Houston Freedmen's Town Conservancy. Congratulations to Executive Director Katrina Johnson and telling the story of freedom by preserving Freedmen's Town and educating visitors about this pivotal yet often overlooked chapter in Houston's American history.
The Houston Latino Film Festival. Congratulations, Pedro Rivas, and Houston Latino Film Festival sees a future for the Latino Latinx talent that exists at all levels of filmmaking in Houston, and thus aims to educate, create lasting connections, and incite dialogue, and provide a place for audiences to engage with existing and future film artists.
Islamic Arts Society. Please join us in celebrating the arts in Islam and to celebrate culture. By promoting the Islamic arts, they hope to promote mutual understanding and to bring the broader Houston community together.
Jazz Houston. Please join me in celebrating Belinda Monroe Gardner and the Jazz Houston team. Founded by Vincent Gardner and Belinda Monroe Gardner, Jazz Houston is committed to elevating, educating, and empowering the next generation of jazz musicians by connecting them with leading organizations and institutions that will help to develop their craft.
Saeed Institute. Thank you very much. Please join Saad. Thank you. Please join us in celebrating Devil for luncheon. Created to offer a platform where arts and education and community engagement intersect to foster empowerment and resilience. They are dedicated to empowering the African diaspora and fostering a more inclusive, just, and vibrant society.
The Segundo Barrios Children's Chorus, please join us in celebrating Jorge Gabriela and the Segundo Barrios Children's Chorus team. Citing early success to a free music education program that allowed him to develop his natural talent, Segundo Barrios Children's Chorus founder Jorge Gabriela utilizes years of experience and expertise to create essential pathways to life-altering educational and artistic experiences for immigrant bilingual children and families.
Social Movement Contemporary Dance Theater. Please join us in celebrating the life and using dance and community engagement, Elijah Gibson cultivates an inclusive, safe space that explores timely and resonant themes. Social Movement Contemporary Dance Theater's dance education programs challenge prevailing narratives of the roots of popular Western dance forms, addressing the diversity of students as well as the diversity of dance.
The Texas Salsa Congress. Please join us in celebrating Ruby Rivera and the team from the Texas Salsa Congress. For over 19 years, the Texas Salsa Congress has been a driving force in fostering partnerships and organizing public events throughout Houston and its neighboring communities to highlight and foster the immense amount and varied talent within the local, national, and international Latin dance community.
The Nigerian American Multicultural Council, known as NAMC, as catalysts to educate children, youth, and adults, aid immigrants in assimilating to this new city and culture, and celebrate to the multicultural and multi-ethnic heritage of Nigerians and other Africans.
Right About Now Poetry. Please join us in celebrating founder Amir Safi and the Right About Now Poetry team. Its mission is to build and foster a diverse and inclusive environment that empowers individuals to create and share poetry through hosting live weekly poetry events, publishing the work of contemporary poets through video, and building and expanding its digital platform and membership. And now we hand you back to the 60.
So amazingly, we're running ahead of time. every organization who's receiving an award today, Cultural Treasure Accelerator, will actually be receiving a plaque with their name and a designated Cultural Treasure BIPOC Arts Network and Fund. And it says on October 30th, 2024, the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund recognized 16 arts organizations for their history of transformative support to the BIPOC arts ecosystem in Houston. Each received a grant to catalyze their capacity for resilience and stability. So everybody will have one of these. And Houston Cultural Treasures will also have their own plaque in this point. It took us a year. In order to do this, because it's been great in order to, I think, I love this theater, but everything is also really dark in the front. So I would love for actually the team or a representative of each organization to come up on stage so that we can all actually celebrate you as an entire cohort. So please, if you are able, some of you or all of you, come up on stage, please. So instead of me getting one, all your plaque, it's one plaque. Oh, we're gonna make it So,
And squeeze.
we have excited all of this. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we just read the title by half, by a third, where we go.
No, this is good. This is good.
Okay, try to get your faces into the shoulders, that way you don't block the faces.
Okay, look at these multiple cameras first.
Remember the half of it? Yeah. Perfect. There you guys, 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3, there you go. Good.
Everyone good over here? Okay, now look over here. Can you see me? Two and three. And we got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Next.
As everybody's getting back to the table, or not the table, sorry. It's a very large table that we're creating in the theater. Because art is something we consume in such a beautiful, it feeds our spirits. I can come up with more cheesy metaphors. I'm gonna go off script and take a moment in order to just say, it has been an amazing 3 years. During the pandemic, I don't believe any of us could have foreseen this moment. During that time of major disruption, social upheaval, we were looking for connection, we were looking for purpose, we were looking for hope. Many of us found it within each other in our communities. Many of the arts organizations and artists here today helped guide us, remind us what it meant to be human, what it meant to be part of a community. Thank you all for that support, that work, and that continues to be a moment for me to be able to think through of this. It took a global pandemic, global international crisis and upheaval and reconciliation in order to be able to move from theory into practice. Part of the work with BIPOC Arts Network and Fund is to continue to fund you all who have been doing this work. There are many others who are doing this work, and we hope to continue to be able to not only resource them with individual, but through direct funds, but also how do we as a community connect with each other? How do we actually resource each other thoughtfully, intentionally, and generously? How? Part of our work is in order to think about resources broadly. It's not just money. It is the social capital. It is the histories that you have with the communities. It is the trust that you have built with your audiences, and is the belief in something larger than just a community, a city, a building. You all have buildings, you all have social capital, you have experience, you all have expertise, and it is our hope that over the course of the next year, you as Cultural Treasure Accelerators, and also be able to work with an upcoming cohort of individual artists, as well as producing cultural treasures, that as a connected community, how do we be a center for the greater Houston community and actually be a center for transformation and catalytic change? How do we learn, how do we actually lift up the things that we all know as our own community? We do healing in our community. We do connections in our community. We have lift up and celebration, and we are therefore in crisis. I do not want to continue to only be for each other in crisis. So, as I say to everybody and many times in this aspect, it is part of my challenge to you all is how do we build into thriving? How do we support each other? How do we support ourselves in understanding how to continue to build? And how do we build a future that is actually one that we are excited to live in? So, I know that I get real heavy about this, but I think that part of this is actually part of a call out to all of us. Part of a recognition of like, yes, we have been doing this work, and this moment is a moment of celebration, a moment of recognition, and a moment to call each other together in order to be able to say, where do we go from here? So, I hope I didn't take Stranger's thunder. Thank you so much. It is an honor and a privilege to be the director of this program. It is an honor, like I have been in community with you all, for many of you all, for 30 years. Some of y'all saw me growing up. The hair is grayer. It is not purple, orange, purple, or whatever color it was at any point in time. But part of that growth and part of why I named this is that, y'all, not every moment is going to be pretty. Not every moment of our growth is actually the thing, but it is in that challenge, it is in that hope, it is in that experimentation, it is in the willingness and the freedom in order to be who we are, that hopefully the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund is here in order to support and lift you up in that. It is here for us in order to remind you as this is an opportunity to share with each other and to remind each other what it can be to live authentically, to live creatively, and to challenge each other into thriving. Okay. I'm going to turn this over to Chandra because otherwise I'm right.
You know, everything he just said. Thank you for such heartfelt, genuine words. I wish I had a plaque to give to him because we truly appreciate all of his guidance over these years. He's truly a treasure. Speaking of treasures, congratulations to all of the cultural treasures. Yes, please, another round of applause. It's my honor and my pleasure to welcome you to this new experience because now is when the real fun begins. You've already done the work, you are doing the work, and you deserve to be appreciated. As artists, art organizations, and administrators, cultural workers who recognize that we are living in perilous times, and also recognize that we collectively all draw from rich histories that show us that we can get through these times and thrive together. We call upon you to join in and to activate this network. Not long ago, I was in your shoes when Shape Community Center was awarded recognized as a Houston Cultural Treasure. It didn't take me long to understand that this is not just another grant opportunity. It's a whole different process. It's community work, it's cultural work, it's collaboration by its most meaningful definition. And there are some things that it may be helpful for you to know as you navigate through this space. You will be doing a lot of breathing, intentional breathing, a lot of grounding, intentional grounding, and being intentional about the world that you want to create, that we co-create together. Trust the process, trust yourselves, be open to the process. Your team members in this experience get to know each other on a personal and organizational level. You'll find that you have a support system that you may not have even realized that you have. After Hurricane Beryl, one of our buildings was still without electricity after about 10 days, and we had to continue our summer youth program, along with doing our organization for relief efforts. The children were cramped in one space from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and many still didn't have electricity at home. If they had food at all, it had been spoiled because of the power outages. So we needed to be available to the community. But we were at a limited capacity as well. And so we were in a situation and we just put out a text message to the group me for the Houston Cultural Treasures. And within 24 hours, it was resolved. We had a partner in our struggle. It didn't cost us anything to resolve it. The children loved it. They were able to enjoy enriching and educational activities and connect with a new cultural experience. But it meant so much more to us than even the children realized that we had a new partner who treated us like an old friend. There was no hesitation. So I'm just saying, embrace the experience and be open to the connections. One of the agreements that our cohort came to was sin pelos en la lengua. And I hope I didn't butcher that, but it was something we talked about early on. And it's just saying that we're going to speak to each other without mincing words. And we're going to say the things that are difficult to say and difficult to hear because we want to better ourselves and each other. So together, you will have to find a way to cut through the noise, to build real and sustainable relationships, because unity is what it's going to take for BIPOC organizations to get beyond surviving to thriving. Are we ready for? Okay, great. So it's now my pleasure to bring on Harris County Precinct 4 Commissioner Lesley Briones. As we prepare to move to the panel discussion, please help me show our gratitude to Commissioner Briones. Commissioner Briones has held this office for a short time, but has been a long-time community servant as a teacher, a lawyer, and judge. Her strong convictions for justice and equality have moved her into spaces where she's helping to create the world we all want to live in. Commissioner Briones continues to help amplify the voices of BIPOC artists and organizations in Harris County and beyond, such as by approving a resolution in Commissioner's Court to recognize Diwali, the Festival of Lights, as well as recognizing our own cultural treasure, IAA, for their rich cultural contributions. We truly appreciate her dedication and are proud to work alongside her in creating a more equitable, inclusive, and beautiful world. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lesley, and I'm so thrilled to be here today and celebrate all of you. So congratulations to all of the organizations. It's really amazing what you do. So this is a tiny token of my team and I's profound appreciation and gratitude to the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund. There is a proclamation. Would you like me to read it? As Precinct 4 Commissioner of Harris County, Texas, it is my privilege to recognize the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund on the momentous occasion of honoring its 2024 Cultural Treasure Accelerator cohort. Congratulations again to all of you. And we're listing its panel discussion, State of the BANF Network. Houston and Harris County's vibrant artistic ecosystem thrives thanks to the contributions and leadership of BIPOC artists and organizations. Through initiatives like multi-year operational grants and robust networking opportunities, BANF is building a more inclusive future for Greater Houston's art sector. I'm grateful to BANF for convening the diverse perspectives of government, nonprofits, and others to deepen the dialogue necessary for Houston and Harris County to advance greater equitable investments in the BIPOC arts community. I look forward to the 2024's work in helping to strengthen the creative and civic spirit of our region. So thank you again to BIPOC Arts Network and Fund, and to the cohort, if we can give another round of applause, all of your leaders that can say it. My team and I are so honored to be here.
Everybody gets the other public
I defer to my amazing team, but yes, yes is the answer, and soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are going to transition to our panel discussion, and we have Sheetal, Bedi, as our moderator.
I can't really see the house, but I know I was in there a few minutes ago, and thank you everybody for being here today. A very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Good morning, it's 6%. I'm Sheetal Bedi with the Indo-American Association of Houston, and I am delighted to be your moderator for today. Thank you for joining us on this very important discussion, although I have to say that Sixto really took the thunder away because he really talked about everything that we are now going to delve deeper into. This is a really important conversation that we must have about resourcing BIPOC culture in Greater Houston. You know, as we know that Houston is in fact one of the most diverse cities in the United States. And this diversity is reflected in our thriving arts and cultural landscape. Yet many Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC organizations continue to face systemic barriers in accessing resources needed to sustain and grow their work. It's a shame, but that's true. Now, when we say resourcing, it might sound like we are on a treasure hunt. And in a way, we are. But instead of digging for gold, we are looking for ways to unearth and invest in the incredible talent and creativity in our communities. No treasure maps needed, just a shared vision and some good ideas. And you're all the treasures sitting in this room, so you know what I'm talking about. As Executive Director of IAA, I've first seen firsthand how resourcing can change the trajectory of an organization. It's not uncommon for BIPOC organizations to face significant challenges, even when we have the vision and the passion. Resourcing isn't just about money. You heard Sixto talk about this. It's about building relationships. It's about finding allies. It's about being creative with the assets, the limited assets that we have. So today, when we talk about resourcing, BIPOC culture, it's not an abstract idea. It's about making sure that these moments like today, which celebrate and sustain our communities, are possible. So let's dive into the spirit of support and sustainability. We have an incredible panel lineup of speakers who are deeply committed to supporting and advancing the cultural vibrancy of Houston's BIPOC communities. Our goal is to reflect on the current challenges, share some insights, and identify opportunities to strengthen and our collective efforts. We all have to team together to be able to build our resources, share our resources. I'm honored. We've already had a brief introduction to Commissioner Briones. I'm really honored to introduce everybody on the stage today. Commissioner Lesley Briones is deeply committed to public service and community development. She works to advance policies to promote equity, infrastructure, and economic growth with a strong background in law and education. Commissioner Briones is dedicated to creating a better quality of life for all residents of Harris County. I just picked up my bag for hurricane preparedness yesterday when I went to vote, and I saw those and I said, my goodness, I said, I have to go sneak 5 or 6 more of those. I love these. Thank you for doing all the work you do. Next, we have Taylor Jackson, Director of Grants at the Houston Arts Alliance. Thank you for being here, Taylor. A key leader at the Houston Arts Alliance, Taylor works to support and uplift Houston's diverse arts community. Her work focuses on providing resources, advocacy, and opportunities to strengthen the city's cultural landscape. Taylor is dedicated to fostering collaboration and creativity across all artistic disciplines. Thank you, Taylor. We are also thrilled to have amongst us Johnny Richardson, who is a program manager for Green Mountain Energy Sun Club. You may ask why green energy, and you'll find out more about what green energy does to support nonprofit work and arts communities. So they support community and cultural initiatives, and it's a very well kept secret, as we discovered while we were having a chat. In his role, Johnny partners with nonprofits to create innovative grant proposals and amplify opportunities for building greener communities. And I suspect he's going to be really popular with a lot of you once he finishes that. And to bring the Houston Cultural Treasures cohort perspective to the discussion, we have Gabriela, we call her fondly Gabby, Baeza Ventura. Gabby is the Deputy Director of Arte, Público Press, a cornerstone of our city's cultural landscape, dedicating to amplifying and preserving the voices of Latino and other BIPOC communities. Gabby will join the discussion at the end of our presentations from the panelists. Thank you all for being here today. So let's open the panel to address this topic in a very general way. I would ask Commissioner Briones, Johnny Richardson, and Taylor Jackson to please share briefly your thoughts on today's topic. When we talk about resourcing BIPOC organization, what comes to your mind? What does resourcing mean to you in your respective roles, be it whether you're public sector or a grants organization or corporate funding for that matter? If you could limit your comments to 4 minutes, and then we can have questions followed by that. Should we start with who wants to go first? This is a very democratic process.
I can go first.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I first want to say, how lucky are we to be living in the city of Houston, the most diverse cultural city in the nation, right? Not that part of that part, right? And that's so exciting. And for me personally, so I like to travel a lot, and I generally travel for nature, for things that maybe Houston doesn't have here. So you have mountains, you have desert landscapes, all sorts of things like that. So this past weekend, actually, I was hiking up a 12,000-foot mountain. And the same story always plays out. I always meet people, and generally they ask you, it's like, oh, where are you from? And I tell them Houston, and they're like, oh, okay, and I learn about where they're from. And the same thing always plays out every single time is that I get so excited about telling them about Houston and what we have to offer, just everything that we have going on here, right? In hopes that they visit. And I think, I don't have specs on this, but I really believe that a lot of Houstonians, they're not native Houstonians, right? There's a lot of transplants. So there's people that come here, they visit, and go, oh man, this is a beautiful, wonderful place, right? And then they stay here. And so we talk about that. And we talk about the culture and just all these things. And to be quite honest, there are so many things that I haven't even had an opportunity to go out and see, whether it's in theater or the arts, music, anything like that. But I continuously learn about it, and then I share those experiences. Oh, did you know that we have this, and we have this too, and it's over here. And I haven't even gone there myself, so sometimes I feel like I'm a tourist in my own city. And yeah, so like that's really cool, right? And so where does Green Mountain Energy come into this? So I tell this story all the time with people, and with them, I was telling them, oh, this is the type of work that I do, and we get sustainability grants, and we start talking about, oh, well, we have all of these other nonprofit organizations, and they are telling their story about their culture, and they constantly go through that. So it's really about that communication. So for me, resourcing is communication, collaboration, being able to embrace all of the different ways that Houston stands out, not like on a state, national, even a global scale for what we have here. And it's really a treasure to have that. So whenever it comes to Green Mountain, we think about that story in terms of sustainability, right? And how we can have nonprofits tell that exact same story of why they exist, why the culture exists, why we need to embrace that culture and amplify it, but we can tell it in a different way. And in the case of sustainability, last year's recipient, Salon Houston, right? They were a grantee of ours. Wonderful organization. They received over $100,000, and it wasn't to change anything that they're doing right now. It was to enhance what they're doing through access sustainability. And so that was solar panels, battery storage, all of that, so that they can continue on their mission of doing exactly what they are providing to the great city of Houston. And so, we think about sustainability that way. And we're just so happy that that I really think was the first step in us moving in that direction, and that's really what I believe resourcing BIPOC culture is in Houston.
Thank you, John. That's wonderful. That is phenomenal work that you're doing. $100,000 for an arts organization is a huge, huge help. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Taylor, would you like to talk about your perspective of what resourcing is about?
Yes, thank you. And I also have to shout out Sixto and BANF. I mean, the work that Sixto is doing through this organization is just incredible. And I look up to Sixto immensely. I see him as a mentor, and I'm so inspired by the work and the way that he's thinking about resourcing and supporting BIPOC communities here in Houston. You know, when I think about it, by way of my work with Houston Arts Alliance, another funding organization, I think something that I've learned, not only by way of this work being a funder, but also by way of, you know, prior to being at Houston Arts Alliance, being the executive director of a small arts education nonprofit in Providence, Rhode Island, and an invaluable experience that I was able to move through, and something that we've also kicked off at Houston Arts Alliance, is creating an opportunity to ask the community what it is that they need and how we can support, right? I think sometimes when you make the assumption or an assumption about what the needs are, you can have a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't actually land for a lot of organizations. And so the more brave you are and being courageous enough to actually invite the community to the table and say, what's working, what's not working, what do you need? It has been the insight and the feedback that we've received that has helped us reframe and shape our process in a way that's more community responsive. For me, it's been one of the most exciting initiatives that we've been able to kick off at HAA. And I really do feel like it's helping us move in a direction that can be more supportive in terms of being a resource to the community. Now, if you're going to open, you know, yourself up to receiving that kind of feedback, you also have to be open to being held accountable by way of the community, right? So I think that's another way that we can be a resource, right? Is not being afraid to be held accountable and being pushed to do, you know, what we have the capacity to do in order to best support the community. So yeah, open yourself up to feedback and don't be afraid to be held accountable.
So first of all, it's an honor to be just sitting alongside you all, such true leaders. So thank you for what you do. So I'm grateful to be one of your Harris County commissioners, but just very briefly, so you know where I'm coming from, and my subsequent answers is I would not exist but for art. So my father was my mom's literature professor. So but for poetry, helping my dad get my mother's attention, I literally would not exist but for art. But my parents raised me, they have a profound love of literature and just how it teaches you to empathize and to dream and to heal and to mourn. And so music as well as literature was just like the foundation of my childhood. And I grew up in South Texas on the border in Laredo. Puro 956, right? And you know, to me, the art was the rancho, right? The landscape. And fast forward many years, you know, I was a teacher, and as an 8th and 10th grade English teacher, again, similar to my parents, I saw when my students wrote, that sense of empowerment, that sense of healing, that sense of identification, and reading artists who were like them, who shared similar stories, what that meant at such a profound level, and shaking up the curriculum in a way that, you know, I'm sure I would have gotten fired if I worked in a different district. But I'm like, what the hell? Like, let's learn literature that reflects who we are. Anyway, so fast forward many years, now I'm one of your public servants, and several ways. I think of it in kind of two big ways how we can resource BIPOC organizations. One is a meaningful voice at the table when decisions are being made, and two, a reflection in your community spaces. Let me give you a couple of examples of how my team at Precinct 4 and I have been trying to live out in those two categories. One is much of the county funding is tied to infrastructure. So we, and I believe the government works for the people. So we have launched deep community planning efforts across the precinct. So in Gulfton, in Alief, in Sharpstown, in the very east part of Spring Branch, that's about 65% Latino, for instance. We've been doing it in a multilingual, so in Gulfton, our community engagement is in 6 languages. So they are helping to plan what infrastructure, what safety components we will do. And I have told my team, to the maximum extent permitted, we are building in art into all of these infrastructure improvements. And so it's been wonderful to have many of you at the table as we are planning and prioritizing. And then let me give you a couple of examples in the spaces. So we got some federal funding related to crime prevention through environmental design for lighting, lifting, cooling, placemaking. And I said, I want art to be a key part, right? Because part to me of safety is community and identity. And so we, the teacher and me, we worked with Alief ISD, and we worked with over 500 student artists to see, and they submitted their ideas, and they will be manifest in statues. So as we invest the $6 million, $2 million in Alief, $2 million in Sharpstown, $2 million in Gulfton, art will be a key part of this SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. So I'm really excited about that, because we're gonna need more of the infrastructure in Harris County. We need things that celebrate and inspire and heal, and uplift, most importantly. And another example is we have all these buses, right? And frankly, I used to get texts like, hey, do y'all have prisoners in Precinct 4? I'm like, no, we don't have prisoners. We have, unfortunately, too many folks in the Harris County Jail, but in the precinct, we do not have prisoners. And when you look at the bus, what the hell? They're horrible. They're pretty on the inside, but horrible on the outside. They look like a prison bus. So again, the teacher and me, we launched an art competition with all of our school districts, and the theme was the history of immunity in Harris County. So go to our website, you'll see these buses being transformed in these student artists. And then the last example is we have put out a proactive call for artists within Precinct 4. So that as we have community events, celebrations, as we transform the precinct, as my team is looking on walls that we could hopefully put murals on, we are proactively engaging, but we need your help to get the word out. And I can speak for my fellow commissioners and the judge that we all value art, and we have very strict procurement compliance county rules, and within that, there's ways we can do more with the resources we have. So in sum, I believe it's making sure the voices are at the table when decisions are being made and being reflected in our community spaces as we drive progress.
Thank you all for sharing those insights, 3 very distinct and different perspectives. Now moving to those questions, and Gabby, I'd like to start with you. You and I are often in that ask position, ask for resourcing. What advice, what would you have to say to BIPOC organizations in terms of what they can do in terms of resourcing and amplifying their voices with respect to the resources?
Sure. Hi everyone. Thank you Sixto, Long Chu, and the founders who have provided a lot of this funding so that we could be identified as cultural treasures. One of the things that my advice is always to think of ourselves as a big spider web that is spreading across all over the Houston area, but all over the nation. You know, as I work with Arte Público Press, and we have been in existence for the past 45 years. Our founder and director, Dr. Nicolás Canelos, just last week received the National Humanities Medal of Honor from President Biden. He's the only one at the University of Houston. So he brought out the Público Press and started out the magazine Revista Chicanorequeña in 1973 to create a space for Latino writers, Chicanos and New Yorkeños, to come together in one space where they could publish and write about their work. And this space also was open up to scholars who at that moment were not allowed to write about the literature that was being produced by Latinos in the US because that literature was not considered worthy of being researched or investigated. The space also opened up, the magazine also opened up a space for artists. And so that laid the foundation for Latino literature as we know it today. In the 90s, he also launched a program called the Recovering the US Hispanic Literary Heritage Program, which seeks to document the literary experience or the cultural experience of Latinos in this space that we now call as the United States from colonial times until 1980. So we've documented that, Latinos have been in this space, have been writing. The first language that's spoken in this territory, the first European language spoken in this territory was Spanish. And so I mentioned all of this to indicate that a lot of the work that we're doing is to allow and create spaces, right? As my colleagues have mentioned, create spaces to put people, offer a seat at the table where we can see that these activities are happening, artistic activities are happening all over the United States, right? We represent Latinos from all the various nations that speak Spanish. And when I think about the spider web, I always think about how we have a poet in Puerto Rico, we have a poet in New York, we have a poet in California, we have somebody in Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico, in Pueblo Corrado here in Texas, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all writing about our heritage, we're all writing about our history, we're all writing about our people. And so if you mess with a poet in Puerto Rico, you mess with the one in Texas, right? And so that's what I want to see, right? If they mess with the people who are doing dance, they're messing with the people that are doing music and literature. And so we are a group of people who are working towards a common good, which is to bring arts to our communities, because we know that if our children, the future generations, see themselves reflected in these spaces, as Commissioner Briones said, if these kids are going to see themselves reflected in the spaces that are being created by political institutions, by the state, this is simply going to say that this is going to give them a sense of belonging. Aren't we just so sick and tired of being told that we don't belong, that there's no space for us at the table? That has got to end. And I think that's the mission. That's I sometimes see it as a burden because we don't have a lot of resources, right? But I also see it as a mission that I have been, blessed with, that I take very seriously every single day. And I hope that through the work that I do as a publisher, but also as a professor at the University of Houston, that I'm able to plant those little, seeds into my students, so that especially those who are going to go on to become teachers. Commissioner Briones just mentioned she was a teacher. So our teachers are fundamental. They're, in helping us promote these things. And so I hope I didn't go on a rant here, but I think it's precisely thinking of ourselves as a community who, we're working towards the same good, the same common good, and then hopefully we don't fall into the traps of fighting for resources, because there's resources for all of us. We just need to figure out how to work with each other, and if my colleague gets the funding from a major organization to do a certain type of work, where I'm gonna figure out a way to add them to the grant so that we all get a piece of that pie. Right?
Thank you, Gabby. And I know why you need that perspective on this panel, because one thing that you identified so beautifully is the multiple hats we wear. The days when I think we're the chief cook and bottom washer, on top of being an administrator and everything else, and you beautifully outlined that. Commissioner Briones, I have a question for you. You've been an advocate for equitable policies at the county level, ensuring that public and the communities get the resources that they need. Around the public policy issue, how can county and city policy and initiatives better support? You talked a little bit about that. Can you sort of talk about how the public policy, how can that support BIPOC organizations?
Yes. Well, first of all, since voting is still going on. I encourage you to all vote and to make sure everyone you know votes. Because who you have in office matters tremendously. We all have lived it, especially in our communities, so vote. There's so many ways we can get better, the truth, and we need to be far more nimble and creative and innovative. And so what I have charged my team to do is every single project we do, and again, most of our money is tied up with infrastructure. So we do the Envision certification analysis with every project so that we're looking at resiliency, sustainability, placemaking, community input. And so we're putting it through this framework each time, right? So it's just kind of, sometimes it's the processes and procedures or criteria of funding or of a project. But if we just become laser focused and make it more systematic, that could improve. And there's also being creative in how, for instance, and I want to thank Commissioner Adrian Garcia, your Commissioner Precinct 2. So I was so proud to vote. It was something he championed and I wholeheartedly supported. The county is investing $800,000 into what will be our first Latino museum, which I'm thrilled about, in partnership with I. And that will be huge, right? Especially because we're looking at spaces and, you know, and all of our communities matter and they all need to be united. And when you have a community that's half of this place, there should be a museum. And so how we use Chapter 381 agreements, for instance, to be able to invest these funds. So and I'm a lawyer, right? So it's like, okay, we have to follow all the rules, but how can we be creative within the rules? And this was a very clear way we could, and we should, and we did, right? So that's another thing. Another way we're trying to be more creative is really being proactive on public-private partnerships. So I'll give you one example, and it goes back to the arts. So Shell, I represent the energy corridor as one of the parts of Precinct 4. And Shell partnered with us, Precinct 4, as well as the Energy Corridor District. And what they did is reused old shipping containers and blades to create this 40-foot mural, an energy hill, which is in Terry Hershey Park, which is one of the county parks. So, and then we've also put out a proactive call for partnership projects with the cities. So on this point of collaboration with our school districts, managing districts, et cetera. And one of the criteria that we're purposely adding in is this sense of not only resiliency, sustainability, safety, et cetera, connectivity, but it's the community piece, right? And that's again how we go back to community voices, decision making. So there's other examples I can cite too, but the end of the day is we need to approach this in unity, and we need to approach this with a spirit of creativity and innovation, and always be asking why and why not, right? And what if? And so trying to bring that to government to the extent possible, and then making sure every different level, the city, the county, the state, et cetera, are all working in parallel. So we have a lot of room for improvement, and we are committed to continuously improvement.
Thank you, Mr. Briones. We are so grateful to have you in a leadership role to be able to drive the right public policy. Taylor, you are in an enviable role that some would consider the enviable role of a giver, having to give out grants. But the focus and responsibility on equitable grant making and capacity building has to be really onerous. I bet you when you get invited to certain things, you say, are they looking for money? So that must be an onerous responsibility. But seriously, how does the Houston Arts Alliance view the importance of BIPOC resourcing? And what specific strategies has IEA implemented or is implementing to ensure that organizations not only survive, but they thrive in an evolving arts landscape?
Yeah, so, you know, I don't think this is a secret that historically BIPOC-centered organizations and artists have been, have navigated barriers and disparities and marginalization when it comes to, you know, receiving funding by way of opportunities such as grants. And so, as a funder who, you know, HAA, one of our values is centering equity in our work. And we have to be able to as Sixto mentioned earlier, transition theory into practice, right? And so an initiative, another thing that I was really excited about that we kicked off last year was our BIPOC Boost formula. And that was a permanent formula structure that we incorporated into our annual grant programs, our general operating support grant for organizations, our project grant for individual artists and creatives, and our festival grant, so that organizations, artists, and festivals who are being awarded by way of our panel adjudication process receive a 45% boost to their award amount if they qualify as a BIPOC organization. Right, so that's almost doubling their award amount, right? So, you know, in short, the strategy is putting money where our mouth is, right? And, you know, when we launched that program, we launched it, and then we made the announcement, and of course these organizations and these artists who are receiving this boosted amount are calling like, we didn't include this in our budget. What are we supposed to do with this extra money? I'm like, pay yourself, pay your staff, right? Do what you need to do to better support the capacity and the growth and the sustainability of your organization and your arts practice. And so, you know, as a funder, I think, again, a huge strategy is being able to be creative and innovative in the ways that you invest in BIPOC communities. So that you're not just speaking about being an advocate to the BIPOC community, but you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you're actually making good on that practice.
Absolutely love what you just said. You know, BIPOC organizations are usually built on the backs of volunteers. I have some of my board members here. I'm going to be coming down and telling you guys I'm stopping volunteering. I need to be paid. So I love what you just said. In all seriousness, IA does pay people. Just sort of set the record, we do. But I think it really speaks to how BIPOC organizations need to think differently, because of sustainability that is ever so crucial. Johnny, social responsibility used to be a very sexy word when I was in the corporate world a long time ago. Everybody wanted to do the socially responsible thing. What innovates, what motivates, I should say, Green Park Energy to engage with BIPOC and support BIPOC organizations?
Sure. So Green Mountain Energy's mission is to inspire hope and motivate action, right, through the use of cleaner energy. And Green Mountain founded Green Mountain Energy Sun Club, the charitable giving program, over 2 decades ago to give back to the communities that we serve. That includes anyone and everyone, because sustainability is for everybody, right? And so that means that nobody gets left behind. Everybody should have a seat at that table, right? And so, you know, whenever we think about the way that we give our grants out, all of our grants are infrastructure grants. So it works a little bit differently, and we have an approach where we tackle these applications that come in on 3 criteria. So we really want the environmental impact to be big, right? So you think about like, oh, you're using solar, so there's resiliency there. You're using less from the grid, you're reducing your electricity bill, right? You're gonna be able to unlock funds, pay yourself back so that you can continue to do what you're already doing and you've been doing for years in this wonderful community, right? So you think about sustainability that way. The second part of that is that financial impact. Touched on that a little bit just now about that. So there's that formula that we equate that, and then the final part of that is the social impact. And so all of our grants for decades have always been tied to a social impact, where we know that in the case for Salon Bomb Houston is that the money that they're saving every year because they are doing the environmental thing, they're doing the right thing, right, sustainably, is that money is going back into their programming where they're going to be able to give expand their programming further, to continue to do what they do, expand the culture, expand, and embrace the city that we live in. And so we've been doing that for years. One thing I do want to note is that, because it was so funny, like you said, pay yourself, right? So that kind of resonated with me. I wasn't going to talk about it. Is that whenever this current administration, they passed this Inflation Reduction Act, right? And in that act means that electric vehicles, solar panels, battery storage, you get a direct pay benefit that's never been available to nonprofits. So whenever you're doing the right thing in sustainability and you're doing it with the environment in mind, so you get a grant from Green Mountain Energy Sun Club. All right, so you are essentially paying yourself back for doing the right thing, because then you're going to get that direct pay benefit from the government, which is fantastic, right? Because then that's unlocked funding, and you're like, oh, well, what do I do with this? Well, pay yourself.
I think there are challenges when we're trying to balance environmental and cultural sustainability, and you speak to that very, very eloquently. Gabby, I guess we maybe each panelist can spend a couple of minutes and have some afterthoughts. What would you like to add as far as any advice is concerned to the emerging as well as the existing BIPOC organizations? I love the term Cultural Treasure Accelerator, because I have this vision of them putting the foot in the gas and accelerating this whole process of resourcing. I want to say thank you, everybody, for doing this, and we're all going to accelerate resourcing in a bigger way. So would you like to say something on that?
Sure, I just would like to say that, as I mentioned earlier, that we are creating these spaces so that we're all sitting at the table. We also shouldn't forget that there's other spaces that are opening up, or other communities that have been visibilized because we have been visibilized. So we should always remember that these are cycles, right? And so we should also be ready to step out of those spaces and allow other communities to come in and to take that space that we held at one point, right? So that this table gets bigger, right? And we be able to allow other communities to also participate, because the stronger, the more of us that there are out there, the harder it'll be to erase us.
I completely agree with what Gabby, she just said. It's so true. Well, first of all, how many of you, speaking of one of my other colleagues who's an amazing champion of BIPOC art and just everything that is, to me, focused on unity, all of the murals in downtown, the Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Precinct 1, has made possible, they inspire, right? They provoke, they unify. And I think, so one thing you just said, Doctora, that my advice to you always goes back to unity. I remember being in the chapter when I was in the philanthropy and nonprofit space, it shouldn't be like Hunger Games, right? It should be, how can we feed each other and rise together, which I know is easier said than done, but that's the truth. It's where can you co-partner on a certain project? How can you help lift each other up? So I'm a very passionate ally of our LGBTQ plus community, and I see one of my fellow Grand Marshals here. I remember I was in a space speaking to a Latino organization, and they were just calling me out for being a strong ally. And I just, full stop. I was like, all of our equality and opportunity is intertwined. Don't you dare try to divide us. Because as a BIPOC community, we will thrive together. And so find those moments of unity. We need to challenge ourselves and challenge each other just to unify. And again, I will end with the message of vote, like your life depends on it, because it does.
My advice might be a little cliche, but I mean it genuinely, and that's, don't be afraid to let your light shine. thinking back to the BIPOC boost formula that I talked about, I have to shout out the city of Houston. For those of you who are familiar with our work, Houston Arts Alliance, our grants are funded by way of hotel occupancy tax dollars, an allocation of that money that's dedicated to arts, culture, and tourism. And, in order to launch that program, we needed the city's, specifically the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, we needed that support, we needed that investment. And we were able to make a case for it because of the impact that we were able to show by way of the money that we have invested into the community and what the community has been able to produce by way of that investment. So that is really a testament of the work and the dedication that you all put into what you do. I wholeheartedly believe that the underground hustle and bustle of Houston is made possible by way of our arts and creative communities, right? And so let your light shine. People are watching, the city is watching. Don't be afraid to reach out to your city council members in the districts that you're headquartered, your commissioners, right? To really speak to what you are doing, because that sort of advocacy down the line is invaluable to preserving the support economically to this community. So yeah.
So many great responses. I love how we all have the different perspectives on everything. So such a great panel, right? Today, for me, I guess my advice would be have an open mind into how you think about funding, right? With us, our funding is different. It's sustainability grants. It's very environmentally driven. It's infrastructure. So it's organic farms, hydroponic labs inside classrooms. It's solar, it's batteries, it's electric vehicles. It's anything that you think that's sustainability. And I know that your day-to-day is taking a look at all of the traditional forms of grants, right? And you keep doing that. But think about the future a little bit differently and how you can weave in sustainability to that. I'm very thankful that I work for a company that recognizes the importance of sustainability is for all and inclusion and equity, and that everybody does deserve that seat at the table. And I'm also humbled that the fact that I get to represent a brand that does that meaningful work where you can't see or touch electricity, or at least I would not try to touch electricity. But all of our funding comes from Green Mountain Energy customers who donate into the program on top of their electricity bill. And so it's up to me and a bunch of people internally to determine where that grant money goes and with these inspiring applications that come in. So I would just say that, I'm just very humbled that I get to be a part of that. And hopefully we can become a part of that sustainability story for more Houstonians in the years to come.
What a phenomenal panel discussion. Can everybody give our panelists a huge round of applause? Thank you. I think we have opened up our minds to a new way of thinking, and it's obvious that resourcing is way beyond just financial assistance. There's so many different ways of thinking about resourcing in terms of building collaborative relationships and community and sustainability and how we can advocate, and how I think you spoke about the hot brands and all the advocacy work that's gone with the politicians to say, guys, you need to have these funds reserved for arts and not put them through other reasons like infrastructure and all that. It's so easy to lose your funding, just for the behest of, I'm sorry, missionaries, but if there are no policies in place, that's what happens to the arts ecosystem. So I think we have to work together as a community, we have to work with and for each other. And sometimes the arts world also becomes competitive, but competition is good in that regard. As long as you don't use competition to, kill each other and bring each other down, which can happen sometimes, let's, be honest about it, but we need to work together to make sure that BIPOC organizations keep on getting funded and we build together because we'll be stronger moving forward. So this discussion needs to go on beyond this room, I believe. I think we need to continue this dialogue. It's an important one that we've, gotten. I think a year ago when we got our Houston Cultural Treasure Award, we were in such a daze that some of the terminology and some of the concepts that we become familiar with today, I think the accelerators are also going to wrap their heads around this. This is just beyond the financial assistance issue. There are systemic barriers and we need to work together, identify them, get the assistance of grant makers and the politicians to be able to help us move that forward. With that, once again, I want to thank everybody on the panel for being such a great participant and opening up our minds to a brand new way of thinking. Thank you, everybody, for joining
They're going to do a photo, so while they're doing a photo, I'll draw attention over here. Again, thanks. What I also just heard is that also, how are we applying our creativity? How are we applying our ideas of artistic aesthetics into the ways that we work? Not just into what goes on stage, but how do we think about our work creatively, and how do we think of how we resource us creatively? I guess also, as Sheetal was also talking about, thinking about the systems. There's times that we can actually push against the systems, and there's times that we need to work within the systems. How do we work with each other in order to figure out when is best? How do we work with each other in order to be able to continue to build systems that support us and continue to be a community that actually will be lasting beyond the next crisis? So again, thank you all very much for being here. Congratulations to all of our accelerators and and thank you to our funders, our grantees, and all of our supporters. Thank you all. Have a great day.